Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Woman with a Blowtorch. Today we're going to be making fajitas. Alright, the first thing I generally like to do is take my aggression out on my garlic. Now if you're not putting garlic in, that's fine. You don't have to. What you want to do is you just want to put your knife flat on the garlic, okay, and then you're just going to hit it with the base, the palm of your hand. But just be very careful because, knives are sharp. And then that's going to actually crush the clove up for you and make it really, really easy to go ahead and just remove that wrapping. So you just want to cut that up really fine. If you're not a huge fan of garlic flavor, you want just a little bit, just crush it like this. Just throw it in the pan with the onions and the bell peppers whole, and you can take it out. But I really like garlic, so I'm going to chop it up pretty fine. When you're cutting the garlic, just make sure you place your nails curled under so you don't lose any of them. That would be awful. Just going to run my knife over this a couple times, and then I'm going to put that off to the side, and we're going to be pretty much done with that. So what I'm just doing is I'm cutting the ends off of this onion just to make it easier for me to peel off this outer skin. Just chopping it in half, and then I'm going to actually just remove this very top layer. I'm going to take the onion, and I don't know if you can see this very well, but I'm just going to do very thin slices. And that's really it. We're just going to go through and do the whole onion like this, because I really want these onions to cook down and get pretty soft. Alright. And like magic, we're done. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm actually just going to take these off, put them in a bowl, and set them to the side so they'll be ready for us when we need them in a few minutes. But until then, we're going to get our bell pepper ready. Then what I'm going to do, get these out of the way so you can see it. So I'm just going to do thin strips, just keeping them long, kind of like, you see how the onions themselves are pretty substantial. We didn't really chop them up too much like the garlic. So I'm just going to cut this into probably a little thicker, but about the same size cuts. And it's good when you're doing a saute or a roast or anything to cut things about the same size. It looks better, but also generally helps things cook in about the same amount of time. Although this will take a little longer because these are just a little more substantial than the onions. So we're going to go ahead and get sauteing. So I'm just going to turn this on medium-low heat. I'm going to add about a tablespoon, or what I like to call a turd around the pan or so, of olive oil. And we might have to add a little bit more of this when we add the onions, but for now we'll just do 1 tablespoon. So now let's heat it up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and scrape my bell pepper into that pot. Just give that a stir. Alright, we're going to want to let these cook about, I would say 5 to 6 minutes until they've gotten tender, at which point we're going to go ahead and add the onions and the garlic. Let that cook for another 5 minutes or so, and then we're going to come back, season it with a little salt and pepper, and then whatever spices we feel like. Sound good? Great. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the marinade. Okay. Now I've actually been marinating this overnight. You can see it in my lovely freezer bag here, which I've had sitting in a bowl, just in case it decided to leak or anything. And what I have in here is 2 servings of sirloin. I've added the juice of half a lime. I would say probably a whole lime. I just had a particularly juicy one, so I only needed about half of it. And then about 3 times as much olive oil. And then I've added a heavy pinch of salt and pepper as well. And I've been letting this marinate overnight, and I've taken it out of the fridge about 30 minutes ago. Anytime you're grilling steak, you really want to take it out a little bit early. Let it take some of that harsh cold off, so that when you go ahead and throw it on the grill, it's going to really sear it nicely. But anyway, so that's just been marinating overnight. It's really simple. I've used this same marinade for fish tacos. It's been delicious. So in the meantime, I'm actually going to chop up some cilantro that I'm going to use to make the side, which is not going to be in this episode because it's my fiance's recipe and not mine, so I can't take credit for it. But I'm also going to chop some up to put on top of the fajitas when they are done. And how I like to chop herbs so that I don't actually bruise them instead of cut them is I like to put them in a bunch and kind of just roll them up together as best I can and just run my knife through it once, maybe twice. I'd rather have big pieces of herbs in my salads or my dressings or in this case my fajitas that are a little large as opposed to bruised. So that's really all I'm going to do. I know this looks like a lot of cilantro, but we're actually using it to make cilantro lime rice as well. Alright, so we're over by the stove now. And I can't actually get a good shot of these. So what I'll do is I'll put pictures in the blog of what everything looks like as you make it along different steps. They really don't look any different than they did when we first threw them in. They're still a nice, vibrant green. They're just a little bit softer. They're definitely not mushy. You know, like al dente? They're definitely al dente. So what I'm going to do now, actually, is go ahead and add those onions and the garlic as well. Let those kind of put together for the next 5 minutes or so. So I have what can only be described as an onion mutiny going on right now in my pan. You'll see a picture again on my blog of it. It looks like a lot of onion, and I know you're going to think to yourself this is way too many onions, but trust me, once they start to cook, they will reduce in size, and they won't look like nearly as many onions. It looks like such a ridiculous amount of onions, but it always does. It always does. So I've already been sauteing the onions and the peppers, and what I've just done was I've added a few spices to it. I've added about a teaspoon of cumin because I think that's going to go really well with the smoky grilled flavor because it's kind of got a smoky taste to it too, and it's commonly found in Mexican cuisine. I've also added about half a teaspoon of dried oregano and then a quarter teaspoon of cayenne pepper. But do that to your taste because it can get pretty spicy real quick. So once you've added all the spices to your onions and your peppers, you're going to want to let them cook over low heat for about 5 to 10 minutes just to kind of let everything meld together before you turn off the heat and put them on standby. So we're just about done here for the day. If you all have any questions or comments, concerns, requests, anything, you can always send me an email at WomanwithaBlowTorch@gmail.com. You can see it right here, or you can go ahead and send me an email. So we just took our steak off the stove. There it is. And you can see there's a lot of juices coming out. So what I'm actually going to do, and suggest you do as well, is you want to let it rest when you're taking it out of the oven or off the grill. So I'm just going to cover it with a little bit of aluminum foil and just let it sit for a few minutes on the countertop, just so all those juices can distribute themselves back inside the meat somewhere. So when we cut it, it doesn't all come out, because that would be sad. Alright, so we finished cooking the steak. All I did was let it rest a bit, and then I cut it into thin strips. And all I'm going to do now is top it with the onion and peppers mixture. And then you do whatever you want to it, whether that's put salsa or guacamole or cilantro, rice, whatever you want to put in your fajita. You go ahead and you do that. And all I'm going to do is get a nice portion of that and just top the meat with it. And then just for a nice little bit of flavor, we're going to add a little cilantro. My cat decided to join. This is Madison Ann. And she likes fajitas too. And she thinks everyone's a cat. It's fine. Anyway, so Maddie and I would like to present you with our lovely fajita in this very, very first installment of Woman with a Blowtorch. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go ahead and post this recipe on my blog, link below. You all have a good one. I think I should say that this recipe's been torched. Fail. What do you think? No? Yeah, like Woman with a Blowtorch. Torched.